I want to also put it out there for the record. I'm a girl's girl through and through. As a therapist, I love hearing when people leave toxic relationships, especially a lot of times you see the men end up being the problem in relationships and women leave
Of
a bad
course.
situation, and it's great. I'm not saying Andy's character was necessarily problematic. Like you said, Val, I think you touched on it perfectly, where they both were doing their own things. It's not a one versus the other. They both,
Yeah,
are
exactly.
coexisting at the same time. They're living their lives. Andy's going about her career, and we get that she's in a really tough situation and trying to kind of make it work at a really hard job to further her career when she wants to move on for the recommendation, all that kind of stuff. But also, Nate is doing his thing, and just because he isn't totally in love with her career choice doesn't make him the villain.
Welcome back to another episode of the Popcorn in the Face podcast. I am today's host, Val McDonald, and I am joined by my co-hosts, Matt Iorio and Connor Busella. Just a quick reminder to follow us on Instagram at Popcorn in the Face Pod if you haven't already. We will be posting the next movie that we'll discuss on the Friday before each episode, so you've got a few days to watch, and then it drops on the following Wednesday. So just to be sure to follow us on there. We post other random updates and kind of like behind the scenes stuff as well, so be sure to check us out. But with all that said, let's dive into today's discussion. We have another movie night episode for you, and we will be discussing the 2006 comedy drama, The Devil Wears Prada. This movie follows Andy Sach, played by Anne Hathaway, who is an aspiring journalist who takes a job as a personal assistant to Miranda Priestly, played by Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep's character, Miranda Priestly, is super demanding and frankly pretty scary editor-in-chief of the fictional Runway fashion magazine. Throughout the movie, we see Andy kind of navigate the toxic workplace, transform her style, make challenging personal sacrifices, and then ultimately choosing to leave this cutthroat world of fashion to pursue a career in journalism. This movie was directed by David Frankel, and it was written by Aline Brosh McKenna and Lauren Weisberger. The film had a budget of $41 million, and it went on to earn $326 million in box office sales, making it a huge success. And it actually outperformed Superman Returns, which released in the same summer of 2006. It also is pretty critically acclaimed as well. It received 21 wins and 53 nominations across kind of all the different awards. So with all that being said, before we dive into our typical categories, I do have a quick question for you guys. So we obviously see Andy, played by Anne Hathaway, get a bit of a makeover in this movie. So my question is, what are the best movie makeovers that you guys can think of? We've obviously seen so many amazing and hilarious movie makeovers like over the years, and I did a quick search just to see kind of like when was the first movie makeover, just because we've seen this trope so many times. And it actually dates back to I believe the 30s. So we've been having movie makeovers for quite some time. I do feel like some of the best ones came out of like the 90s and the early 2000s. But yeah, what do you guys think? What movie makeovers come to mind other than this movie, of course?
I feel like right off the bat, two that come to mind. Well, one because Anne Hathaway, Princess Diaries, that features a really great, in my mind, classic movie makeover. I feel like I can say that now, given that movie came out like 25 years ago. It's also
Mm-hmm.
classic for me because I was peak nostalgia of when I was a little kid and that came out. But just classic high school story makeover, nerdy, poorly dressed, awkward girl. You have a really, really good makeover sequence with Paolo Puttanesca, the Italian, aptly named Italian hairdresser. Their classic line of, you take this and this and we give you a princess. I feel like that's just really iconic. Starts that crazy run for Anne Hathaway. Another one that comes to mind is Miss Congeniality. Everything is there for the makeover. It's literally about an undercover FBI agent going into the Miss USA pageant, and she is a very tomboyish, rough around the edges type of person. I know Michael Caine's hilarious in that movie where he's giving her the makeover, and he talks about her like eating a half masticated cow in her mouth, and she's chomping on a steak. And I think there's a whole scene where they like, I think they're like tweezing her eyebrows and or like maybe waxing her body hair or something, and they bring her to a
Yeah.
warehouse where they're giving like crazy dental work. Like that's a really involved and different makeover scene that I always loved as a kid. And to me, those are like really believable scenes. They did a really good job of selling. Here's a really unpolished person, and we're really gonna change him to this new type of person afterwards. And when we're talking about this too, I think two other ones that kind of pop out to me that aren't as conventional would be Crazy Stupid Love with Steve Carell. If you don't see a lot of like guy makeovers, it's the kind of the stereotype is, the women makeovers. Oh, the nerdy girl that takes off her glasses and suddenly she's attractive. I'm glad all these movies that I'm listing they do a lot more than that. But Ryan Gosling is kind of his person that helps give him this makeover from this dad that, was past his prime and now he takes himself more seriously. And another one I thought of too is, would like Hercules be a makeover? Zero to hero, he's kind of this scrawny little kid, even though he's like demigod technically. And then he goes to the training montage with Phil, and he's really buff and different and kind of more confident. And his confidence grows in the movie, but I feel like I don't know if that qualifies as a makeover.
No, I guess it
Yeah.
does. I hadn't considered Hercules.
A little bit of
I
a
did see Mulan come up on a couple lists.
yeah,
so.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess like a getting fit kind of a situation like could also be maybe like a makeover, but it usually happens like over a longer
Mhm.
period where I feel like the makeover
True.
montage happens like literally in like one day
I
usually.
take some creative license with the makeover.
Yeah.
One day and very cosmetically focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are some really good ones. I had a couple of those on my list as well. All covering different key elements of makeover montage, where you always get the main character getting absolutely roasted on their appearance, and then you get the montage of superficial improvements,
Yeah.
and then you get the showing off of the new look, the slow-mo walk, and showing off the new style.
Mhm.
So one that came to mind was Mean Girls, as Lindsay
I had
Lohan's
that too.
character is transformed into a plastic. That's one where you get the slow-mo walk, similar to this movie, Devil Wears Prada, gets the slow-mo walk in the new fashion. But it's funny you mentioned Princess Diaries, because I had that one. I thought a lot of the makeover scene from Princess Diaries was from this movie, though.
Really?
Because rewatching this one, they're focusing on the fashion aspect of it, which is fair. This movie is the fashion industry. They give her a whole bunch of clothes, and then they make the comment, we're going to be in the glamour department for a while. And then it cuts right to her wearing the new clothes. And I was like, wait, weren't they plucking her eyebrows and like doing her hair? And I was like, that was Princess Diaries. I completely mixed those makeover scenes up.
Both movies feature bald men doing the makeovers, though.
Yep. And Anne Hathaway receiving the makeover.
Yeah. That's funny.
Also, Mrs. Doubtfire.
I had that as my number one, Connor. Yeah.
Nice.
That's an iconic makeover scene.
It's so good. He's got all the different character voices and all the different looks. He's got his gay brother doing the makeovers, and they hit the final Mrs. Doubtfire. And, if we went any further, you'd look like Mom, that line. And finally landing on that final look. There's a bunch of other ones that I've came across, and I'm sure you guys have too. Val, did you have any that we haven't talked about?
I had just a couple that we didn't talk about. I don't know. Have you guys seen Clueless?
Mm-hmm.
I have not. It's one of those classics
Oh, really?
I've gotten around to see. Yeah.
Okay, well, Clueless. It's basically like one of another situation where she's kind of like a poorly dressed girl comes in with two popular girls at the school, and she gets a makeover. It's Brittany Murphy actually who plays her. The character's name is Ty. So that's a pretty good makeover scene, kind of turning her into she was totally fine as is like before.
They always are. They're always beautiful.
They're always comfortable and confident people for the most part. Sometimes there's exceptions, but like they're usually pretty smart, comfortable, confident. And then it's like they're like, "No, you're ugly," and then they have to change everything about them. And that was kind of one of those.
Wrong.
Yeah. They're like, "You need to look hot right now." So that was one of those situations. And then I also had Pretty Woman as well for a makeover scene. Her kind of like turning into like a posh, like put together woman, which is a big contrast to what she was when we meet her at the beginning of the movie. And then lastly, Sorry, go ahead. What was that?
That's definitely one of the most iconic ones, I
Yeah.
think, Pretty Woman.
And then lastly, I had Cinderella because I feel like what
Mm.
better of a makeover than a literal fairy giving you the makeover.
True.
Specifically in like the like 1950 like animated version of it. It's like they literally like wave their wand and like she like turns into like a princess, and I feel like that's like an OG one.
Oh yeah. One that we didn't mention, I'm a huge fan of Freaky Friday
Oh
makeovers,
yes.
Yes.
where Lindsay Lohan is in Jamie Lee Curtis's
Yeah.
body,
That's a good one.
and she gives her mother's body a very punk grunge
Yeah.
makeover,
Yep.
spiky hair and new clothes, boots and jewelry and all that stuff. That one's very fun.
Hmm.
And Matthew, you touched on the just removing the glasses off of an
Yeah.
attractive young woman to reveal, oh,
That
um,
there's a movie and I don't remember what movie it is, but I think it's Chris Evans, like he's like
that's not another
young.
teen
And
movie.
another teen movie. He's
Yeah.
like he goes, oh, glasses and a ponytail. Ugh.
Yeah. Which that movie is like directly making fun of She's All That.
Hmm.
She's All That has the main character just basically change her hair a little bit and takes off her glasses and her overalls, and they're like, wait, she was hot the whole time?
It's
And
insane.
then Not Another Teen Movie just completely makes fun of that, where she's just not ugly at all. Even everyone's just treating her like she's this
True.
piece of garbage.
Literally
And
just
then the
has her
glasses
glasses
come off.
on. That's it.
Yeah.
I think there's a movie too where they use "she's all that" as a verb, and someone goes, "Wait, did you just she's all that me?" I'm trying to remember what that's from.
I don't know.
That
What that's
was that House Bunny?
They might have been, which I almost mentioned that in this.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit, man, that's another makeover movie.
That's a good makeover
Yep,
one. They do
that
like
was another
7
good
people.
scene. Where, yes, yeah, not just the one person. There's different twists on each of
Mhm.
these too.
Yeah. That's funny. Those are all great answers. I feel like my personal favorite is Miss Congeniality. I feel like Sandra Bullock
So
pulls that
good.
off like so good.
Yes.
Like she is literally like objectively beautiful,
Mhm.
but she played a really good like ugly girl in the beginning. Like it was very convincing, and it also had like a reason that like made sense. Like it wasn't just like you need to be attractive. It was like, no, we're making you go undercover, so you
Yeah,
have to do this.
absolutely.
So like it made
It
a little bit more
served the
sense.
story a lot more. And it
Yeah,
made sense.
exactly.
She's just a rough and gruff FBI agent who
Yeah.
needed to be,
Yeah.
in the circuit for a beauty contest. So that one like actually makes more sense.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of just being like, no, you need to be attractive and like
You're a
you need
woman.
to gain
Be
confidence.
more
Yeah,
attractive.
exactly. All right. Well, those are all great. So let's move into kind of our typical categories, which starting out with what our relationship is with this movie. First memory with the movie, first time seeing it, anything along those lines. I can kick us off. So I actually did not see this movie probably until my like early 20s, I want to say. So like really not that long ago. I have a distinct memory though of trying to watch this movie so many times. Like I always wanted to watch it. I was always interested in watching it. But I guess like kind of like through my teens and stuff, like when streaming maybe like wasn't as big of a thing, I was like always trying to like catch it on cable when it was on. Something always happened like when I like wasn't able to watch it, and then when streaming did become more popular, it was never on the streaming services that I had. I just remember like there was like years that went by where I was like, I just want to watch this movie, and then I finally bit the bullet, paid for it on Amazon Prime and rented it. And then yeah, it became an instant classic for me. I've probably seen it like 5 or 6 times since then, and yeah, I just absolutely love this movie. It hit like all the perfect like 2000s nostalgia for me, because I feel like at the time when this movie came out and like when it's set, like I was like a little girl who was basically like enthralled by like this whole world of magazines and fashion and models, and everything like that was like appealing to me like at the time. Obviously I didn't know how toxic it was when I was like 7 years old, but I was like basically like those are the girls that like you start to look up to, whatever, when you're young and you don't know any better. So yeah, definitely hit right with the early 2000s nostalgia for me. Also the performances in it are like really good, honestly, for like for obviously this is not a rom-com, but it kind of gives like rom-com vibe, and like for that genre, like this movie is so good. So I really loved it, and it's such a good rewatchable for me now. But yeah, what about you, Matthew?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I definitely saw this either like at the theaters when it first came out or sometime the next year or two, like shortly after. I know I saw it around the 2006 year. I don't remember necessarily my first reactions to it or anything like that. I can just vaguely remember like enjoying it. But it wasn't a movie I ever really returned to. I don't think until in my 20s, maybe not until like a few years back even. Um, and I was interested to like kind of rewatch it. And I had opinions on it the first time, rewatched it, enjoyed it again, enjoyed it more than I had remembered I would like it. And then I rewatched it again. Weirdly enough, a few months ago, I was randomly in the mood to rewatch it, enjoyed it even more, and then I was glad we got to do it for for this episode, so I got to see it again. And so like every time I've enjoyed it a little bit more, and opinions on certain things in the movies have evolved over time, which I
Hmm.
know I'm sure we'll talk about later, and I won't share that now. But it's been an interesting kind of viewing experience, and I'm glad too, Val, you mentioned like when this came out for you, being young at that age, kind of how you felt about it. Where for me, being roughly 5 or so years older than you, I was what June 2006. I would have been at the end of sixth grade. So for me, like in time, when I watch this movie, I think of like middle school, and it just firmly plants me in a certain point of time, the fashion and what people are wearing, and me cringing at some of the styles, which
Hmm.
we'll probably talk about later. But I feel like it's a same but different experience because of, like, I was 12 going on 13 when this came out. So it was just a weird, interesting time in my life to be viewing this for the first time.
Nice. I feel like I remember this being in that middle school, early high school ranges when I first saw this. Um, it's not one I've returned to a ton of times. I have probably seen this 4 or 5 times over the years. I enjoy it. It's never been one of my favorite
Mhm.
movies, but there's a lot there to enjoy. I mean, it's a fun story. I'm glad you touched on just the changing relationship with it over the years as we're younger and being immersed into this story. We're definitely viewing it through a different lens, and then just in adulthood viewing some of these like very toxic work environments, the lack of work life balance that Andy is experiencing through the movie.
Yeah.
Um, it's definitely different, but not in any worse way. I mean, it's definitely a very good movie. I enjoyed watching it to prepare for this. It's probably not one I'm going to watch very soon, but we do have the sequel coming out very soon, so well timed re diving into this one.
Yes, I'm very excited for the sequel. I feel like it's going to not be good, but I don't
Yeah,
care. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm still going to watch
I
it.
think it's one of those, if you go into it with low expectations, you'll be
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised, and that's where I am at
Mhm.
personally.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I feel like I do have decent expectations for it, or I'm coming with no expectations, but I feel like in a weird roundabout way, it's going to be good for two reasons. One, they got the whole main original cast back, so I feel like Stanley
Almost.
Tucci and Meryl Streep would the Tooch they wouldn't come back for something that's terrible. Also, I
Mhm,
know when I had randomly watched this a few months back and kind of deep dived like on Wikipedia about the source material because it's based on a book.
mhm.
There's the author wrote like two, I think one or two more books after the Devil Wears Prada. So like the second one, I believe, is based on the sequel, and I heard the sequel was like just lambasted, like it was like terrible. People did
Okay,
not
that's what
like
I
it.
heard as well.
Yeah. So part of me is
It
like,
was a really
maybe,
bad
yeah,
story.
maybe the source material is so bad that for some weird reason this is going to be good, or they'll have a lot of creative freedom with it and they can polish it
Mhm.
up. I don't know. I don't know why I have so much trust in the Devil Wears Prada too, but we're gonna see how it plays out.
Yeah, some guarded optimism.
Yeah, yeah. No
Yeah,
low stakes, So
definitely. All right, let's jump into some general trivia. Any trivia questions or any trivia facts that you came across, Connor?
I have one question. I'm going to first direct this towards Val. And if you don't know, we'll open up the floor for Matthew because I
Okay.
think it's a little more realistic that he knows this answer.
Okay.
In the movie, we see Anne Hathaway tasked with retrieving the unreleased Harry Potter manuscript. Which Harry Potter book was that based on the release date of this movie?
Don't know, don't care.
Easy.
Literally
Easy.
have not a clue.
Matthew, do you know which book this would have been when
Yes.
this movie came out in the summer of 2006?
Well, seeing as the sixth Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, came out in July of 2005, this would be the seventh Harry Potter book, with the Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, which came out in July of 2007, I believe.
Yeah, 1 year after the release of this movie. So for her to get her hands on that is quite a task.
Yeah,
She's
They
got
definitely
power.
set her up to fail.
for sure. She expected her to fail. I think she just wanted an excuse to fire her, honestly.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, she
Yeah.
did.
Very evil test / I'm going to use this impossible task to fire
Yes.
you and
Mhm.
embarrass you. But, played off a little better as a test when
Yeah.
she was able to get her hands on that.
Any other facts or questions on your end, Connor?
Nope, that's all I had.
All right. What do you got, Matthew?
I'll throw out a few quick little facts. I'll be real quick about it because we all know that I could be very long-winded with my movie trivia. But I found in my research that Fox bought the rights to the original novel before its publication, even before the novel was even finished, which I thought was really interesting. And also found that interesting too. We're doing this movie or doing this recording not long after our Martian review, which also was, or excuse me, our Project Hail Mary review, which was, that movie was based on a book that wasn't even published at the time that the movie rights were acquired there. Another fact, it's widely believed that the author of The Devil Wears Prada based the Miranda character on Anna Wintour, the very famous fashion designer, or the editor-in-chief of Vogue. And also that author had previously worked as the personal assistant for Wintour in real life. In regards to Wintour as well, a lot of people in the industry were very hesitant to feature and cameo in this movie as they feared, backlash from Wintour, given the portrayal of Streep. They didn't know how she feel about it. I'd heard initially that Anna Wintour didn't like the movie and Streep's performance, but then over the years she really warmed up to it, and apparently now she's quoted as saying she actually enjoys the movie and her performance, which I thought, they're great. Good for her. There's a little bit of character growth there. I'll always love that. And then some casting notes too. Just I know Rachel McAdams was originally sought after for the role of Anne Hathaway's character. I think she was offered it several times and she believed turned it down. This is coming after she was in Mean Girls, The Notebook too, so she was pretty famous at this point. Kate Hudson was offered the role but declined it to do You, Me, and Dupree. And also Kirsten Dunst, Natalie Portman, and Scarlett Johansson also were in the running as well. My other last little trivia I'll throw out there that I thought was personally very interesting. Over 100 actresses were considered for Emily Blunt's character before a casting agent casted Blunt, and she eventually got cast in the role. And at the time of her doing the audition tape, she was on the Fox lot after she was doing an audition for the movie Aragon, which I definitely don't expect Val to know. Maybe you do.
Yeah, I actually think I do.
Oh, wow. A fantasy.
Yeah,
a
I feel like
terrible
we
fantasy.
watched that when it came out.
Yeah, I think we did.
Maybe that's why Val hates fantasy movies, because that was a terrible movie.
Probably.
I read the Aragon book series growing up, like in middle school, high school, and I remember being so excited for that first movie, and it was absolute garbage. But Emily Blunt had auditioned for one of the main roles in that, and eventually she didn't get it, and then she ended up getting this role, which, as we know, like really springboarded her career. And thank God she didn't get that role, because like I said, that movie was terrible.
Yeah, that would have been career suicide. So good thing that she got attached to this movie. Those are all great pieces of trivia. I do have another kind of like casting related question for you guys. So the role of Miranda Priestley was oops, sorry, I almost gave you the answer. Let me backtrack. Which of the following actresses was not considered for Miranda Priestley's role in The Devil Wears Prada? Glenn Close, Sharon Stone, Michelle Pfeiffer, or Catherine Zeta-Jones?
I do know this answer, so I'll defer to Connor.
I don't know the answer. Before it was phrased as multiple choice, I was going to say Glenn Close was definitely up for this one, but I'm going to go with D, Catherine Zeta-Jones.
That is incorrect. She was considered for the role. Matthew, you know the answer?
Yes, Sharon Stone was not considered for this.
Oh, okay.
Correct. Yeah, the Glenn Close, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Catherine Zeta-Jones were all considered for this role.
Pfeiffer would have been good.
She would have.
Yeah.
She's got
Michelle
the like,
Pfeiffer, Rachel McAdams, Devil Wears
yeah,
Prada in
That would have
2006
been
would have been really
interesting.
good.
Yeah,
yeah. Michelle Pfeiffer's got she's got like a zing to her. Like she could
for sure. A little
definitely
bit of
do
an
this
edge.
role for sure.
Mhm.
Glenn Close didn't want to do it because she was just like sick of playing villainous characters. So she was kind of like,
Oh yeah,
I'm
wasn't she in
out of here.
101 Dalmatians? Wasn't she
Yep,
Cruella de
she
Vil?
was
Yeah, I think she
Cruella de
was.
Oh
Vil
yeah.
right around
Yeah.
this time, maybe a couple years before.
Yeah. She was also like kind of I mean, this was like years before, but she was in Fatal Attraction, and she was also like a villain in that too. Like not really a villain, like that's another complicated thing. Or like, is she actually a villain, or did the guy just suck?
We'll be covering that one in year 3 of Popcorn in the Face.
Yeah, I don't know if we're ever gonna get around to that movie, but if we do, we've got some conversation topics I've already got ready. Okay, so one more trivia fact from me. So Patricia Field is the costume designer on this film, and she actually got an Oscar nomination for her work. There were a lot of obviously fashion designers that they had to get loans from, and she spent over $1 million on costuming, making this movie one of the most expensively costumed films in history.
Wow.
I did a quick search to see like what some of the other ones are, and I guess Sex and the City 2 movie is like the widely known as the most expensive. I'm like, I don't know why, because they definitely did not
2
make that money
movies
back.
with lots of designer clothes.
Yeah. So yeah, that I thought that was kind of cool that a costume designer like got an Oscar nomination for all of the fashion designer loans and all the styling that she did on this. But yeah, that's all I had for trivia. So let's go into our IMDb deep dive. I will kick it over to you, Connor.
All right. I have just one piece of IMDb information that I came across. The director from this movie, David Frankel, he directed 2 episodes of Band of Brothers. In my opinion, the greatest show that I have ever seen. I think it's number 1. And he also, the episodes that he did direct, one of them is my favorite episode from that show. So if I were to make a list of the best episodes of TV I have ever watched, David Frankel directed that. It was episode 9 of Band of Brothers, Why We Fight. Is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. I watch this show probably once a year, and I never fail to shed a tear during that episode. And that was his. You look at his IMDb, he is known for Devil Wears Prada and Band of Brothers are his top 2 things. And then weirdly enough, Marley and Me didn't make his top 4.
He's got an interesting range.
Yeah.
He does have a very interesting range.
What about you, Matthew?
So for this, I picked Stephanie Sotak, who's a French actress that played Jacqueline Follett, the woman in the film who is kind of poised to maybe take over for Miranda's character at one moment, and then Miranda pulls her magic and pulls some strings and gets her a job, I think, at the New magazine or whatever that's opening up.
Yeah.
But she kind of pops up.
Tucci's job.
Yeah, exactly. Screwing over the Tooch like that. But I picked her out because I put it in my notes that Morena Baccarin played Jacqueline Follett. I'm like, oh, that's Morena Baccarin, who I know Connor and I would know Morena Baccarin from Deadpool as Wade Wilson's love interest, and she's been in other things over the years. And then I Googled it, and it was not Morena Baccarin. I was like, and usually I feel like I'm pretty good with names and faces and picking out actors and actresses in movies and television shows, but I was definitely wrong, and it surprised me. So I'm like, let me look into Jacqueline Follett a little bit because she looks familiar. And she has also appeared in Dinner for Schmucks, We Bought a Zoo, R.I.P.D. For other movies.
She was Paul Rudd's girlfriend in Dinner for Schmucks.
Okay. I saw that in theaters.
Paul Rudd, friend of the show.
Friend of the show. And then she was also in what I do remember from was Iron Man 3. She played, exactly. She played one of the kind of antagonist characters in there. And then she's on the ABC series, A Million Little Things as well. And then besides that, just kind of looking her up, before getting to acting, she played golf at the College of William and Mary, which is now Division I, so very good golfer. And she worked in marketing for Chanel before getting to acting.
Wow.
A little bit of fashion background there.
Yeah, very interesting. For my IMDb deep dive, you already know I'm found a reason to bring up Mad Men.
Of
So
course.
there's always a reason to bring up Mad Men. So my IMDb deep dive is Rich Sommer, and he is
Mm,
Andy's and Nate's friend Doug, like the guy
Mhm.
of their friend group. And he plays Harry Crane in Mad Men, who is like the head of television at their advertising agency, Sterling Cooper.
Oh.
He's actually such a menace in Mad Men too. He kind of like starts out as like kind of a kind, innocent man in the very beginning of the show, and then he like slowly but surely turns into like a selfish, creepy piece of shit by the end of the show, and he's honestly the worst. So
Yeah.
when I see him in anything else, which he doesn't do a lot of acting, but when I do see him in something, I am brought right back to Harry Crane and all the weird shit that he.
I completely overlooked that he was in Mad Men because when I first saw him rewatching this a couple nights ago, I was like, oh, that's the guy that tried to steal Pam from Jim in The Office when she was at art school.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're
right.
right. I totally
Okay.
And
forgot
I
about that.
have watched chunks of Mad Men since the last time I've watched The Office, and that completely went over my head.
And
But
I
I was like,
completely
no,
forgot about
true.
the Office part that he plays as well. That's so funny.
Mhm.
I totally forgot about that too. But yeah, so he doesn't do a ton, but the things that does do are apparently we randomly stuck in our brains. So
Yeah. That seems to be a common thread with this movie.
yeah. All right. Let's move into our optimal viewing experience. What is the best way to watch this movie, Matthew?
I have at home and midday on a weekend. I feel like I kind of pick this option for a lot of these movies, probably because these are very rewatchable movies for us at this point, and a lot of these movies as well are a solid. I mean, this one's exactly 20 years old, but a lot of these movies are kind of 20 years old, give or take 5 years. So they feel like just often replayed cable
Mhm.
movies. I feel like just finding it on the weekend midday be a really enjoyable time to watch this. And I'm also kind of curious what this would have been like as a first time viewing experience. I feel like I really would have enjoyed it seeing this as an adult in theaters for the first time, and I just I
Mhm.
wonder what that initial reaction from people was or were at the time. But yeah, I think just a midday weekend would be perfect for me.
Yeah, I didn't have anything I felt super passionate about, but you just describing this as like a Saturday day watch seems very fitting. The only thing I did think of was I would have liked to have seen this one in theaters with other people just to
Hmm.
kind of get that the vibe of the movie kind of bouncing off other people would have been pretty interesting.
True.
I'd like to see what's celebrated by people. What nasty comments out of Miranda, how those landed on the masses back in 2006. I'm curious, but I'm also curious how those are going to land now. So
True.
I'm wondering how that's going to be handled in the sequel.
I
Like,
also
is
Yeah,
think
she just flat out canceled for
I know.
her
very
antics?
abusive.
Or
Yeah.
yeah,
I know.
Also, I
Go ahead.
wonder how Stanley Tucci's jokes landed back then as well. I feel like those are some of
I
the best
know.
lines. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I know. I'm wondering how they're gonna like approach all of the intense body shaming that
yeah.
happened in this
yes,
movie.
Which I'm sure isn't happening in the fashion industry any longer.
yeah,
No, no, no. Of course
definitely
not.
gone. We've evolved.
Yeah.
I definitely have something different than you guys. It would be hilarious if you guys did have the same thing as me for this one. But I was thinking like, like doing your nails, like having a girls' night, a wine night, like at home, have your girlfriends over, rent the movie, like at
Doing a
your.
face mask.
Exactly. You get the vibes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like this movie for me, it's like it really is a good, in my opinion, it is a good movie, and it does have like
Mhm.
some outstanding performances, especially Meryl Streep. But it also kind of fulfills the desire for like for me for like a shitty, like shallow rom-com as well. So I feel like that it makes it like the perfect movie to almost have like a girls' night with, because it's like it's not so dumb, but it's like it also still fulfills that like desire for something kind of dumb. So I
Mhm.
feel like
Mhm.
it is a good like girls night
Yeah,
type of
it's an
movie.
easy watch. It
Yeah.
is
Yes.
good, and it isn't, pandering or very corny like a lot of rom-coms, at least
Yeah.
now, are. So I can wrap my head around that concept.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because like I feel like a lot of rom-coms now are like so bad, and it's like I still have the like want to watch like a dumb rom-com, but like I still have expectations, like especially as
Yeah.
someone who's interested in film. I'm like, I can't just be watching anything these days.
Mhm.
Like I still want it to be like an actual movie that I can like enjoy. So yeah, this movie definitely does that for me. So really, really love it.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we have describe a movie plot poorly. So give me your one sentence bad description of the movie. Connor, take it away.
Yeah, I wrote this out as a describe it poorly, and then I realized it's just so similar to the actual description of the movie. But I've got aspiring journalist betrays her values and changes everything about her personality, puts her relationships on the back burner to fall victim to her toxic and evil boss.
I like it. It is very on the nose.
Yeah, it was almost exactly the IMDb description of this movie.
It is a one sentence description. It's not a bad one,
Yeah.
though. What about you, Matthew?
So I kind of went like movie trailer route for how I worded this. So I want to mix it up this time. But I have she's hungry, she's British, and she loves fashion. Will Emily finally achieve her dream of ascending to the top of the fashion world, or will she be usurped by a poorly dressed American who doesn't even want their job in the first place?
I love it. Great use of usurped.
Yes.
I wrote it
So
like,
Intrigue. Betrayal.
I don't know.
Automobile crashes.
I really want to emphasize that she was hungry.
Yes. No, that's really great. I also went like in the alternate route of like a different character's perspective. I feel like I always like to do that for these.
Mhm.
I have a young New York City chef watches his down-to-earth girlfriend get swept up in the toxic high-pressure world of fashion where she transforms into someone unrecognizable.
Nice.
And that's all there
I
is to
wanted
it.
to go that route, and I decided I was gonna save my Nate thoughts for later.
We're Nate apologists. All right, let's dive into our favorite quotes. So we'll start with you, Connor. Maybe just give us like your one or two favorite quotes from this movie.
So believe my favorite quote is from Miranda. By all means, move at a glacial pace. You know how that thrills me. Um, that one actually got a laugh out of me, out of all of her being nasty and rude to Andy and the other coworkers. And then my runner up is from Stanley Tucci. Let me know when your whole life goes up in smoke. Means it's time for a promotion. That one was also very funny.
Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed both of those. The Stanley Tucci lines, he had some really good ones that were more like poignant at times than
Mm-hmm.
funny. But I have two honorable mentions and then my top quote. My first is saying that of all the assistants she's ever had, you were by far her biggest disappointment. And if I don't hire you, I am an idiot. And that's said by the New York Mirror editor to Andy at the very end. And I thought that was just very much in Miranda's style and a good way to kind of cap off the end of the movie and show, that Andy gets Miranda's kind of seal of approval, even though kind of a little bit backhandedly, but in her own way.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed Emily at the event where she's really sick and Andy gives her a compliment on her dress or tells her that she looks really thin. And then she gets all excited and is like, well, I'm on this new diet. It's very effective. Well, I don't eat anything. And when I feel like I'm about to faint, I eat a cube of cheese. And this gives me a good laugh. And then
so problematic.
hence why I talk about her being hungry in my
Yes.
description earlier. But my favorite one that I feel like I see a lot elsewhere, and I've always gets a laugh out of me when I watch this movie, is Stanley Tucci's character in the beginning when Miranda shows up to work, and he goes, "All right, everyone, gird your loins." And the fact that he says "gird" instead of "guard."
That's so funny. I have a couple more Miranda quotes. One that I always think is funny when she goes florals for spring, groundbreaking. that poor person who suggested that. I felt so bad for her. Another like cold Miranda quote is when she goes, details of your incompetence do not interest me. Like just cold. Also, every time she says "that's all," I feel like that's an iconic Miranda
That's all.
quote. Like
True.
she'll say, she literally in the beginning, I think it was like one of the first scenes. She says like 50 things to Emily, and she goes, "That's all." It's like, okay, as if you didn't just give her 400 things to remember. And she's writing down like
Mhm.
furiously. I felt so bad. Um, and then lastly, I have a Nigel quote when he goes, "Corn chowder, that's an interesting choice. You do know that cellulite is one of the main ingredients in corn chowder." Just an out of pocket thing to say to
Yeah.
someone just getting their lunch. It was so insane. Okay. Moving right along, let's dive into our best use of music in the movie. So I have two that I'll start us off with, and you guys can let me know if you have any others. But one, I feel like obviously the Vogue montage, Vogue 1990 Madonna song, like it goes so well with this movie. Also, a little nod to Anna Wintour as well, and having literally the song called Vogue.
Mhm.
Um, and then I also have the intro montage with Suddenly I See, the 2005 song by KT Tunstall. I feel like these two come to mind for me the most as like the like quintessential songs for this movie. Do you guys have any others?
Not others. I had the exact same two.
Yeah.
I
Okay, yeah.
Suddenly I See was definitely one that we listened to
Yeah,
probably before we saw this movie,
for
but it's
sure.
very the song came out in 2005. It's just very early 2000s, sets the tone for this
Yeah.
movie. For some reason it was not on the soundtrack. I found that interesting. And then yeah, the Madonna Vogue sequence is probably the most iconic
Yeah.
stretch of this movie. It's a real turning point for Andy's character also. Visually it's probably the best, she's that was the $1 million budget. It was for that
Yep.
montage, for that 2 minute scene of her walking through New York and through the office to Vogue.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't have anything else, just those two.
Hmm. I want to shout out "City of Blinding Lights" by U2, just because I like U2, and I always enjoyed that song when they first arrive
Mhm.
in Paris. That starts playing. Almost feels a little out of place in that spot. Like there could have been a better song choice, but I've always enjoyed that song. And then like you guys, I had Suddenly I See, and Vogue as well. I think my favorite song is Suddenly I See, but
Yeah.
Vogue is probably the best use of music in this movie.
I'd have to agree. I
Yep.
think it's the movie summed up is Vogue, but
Mhm.
personal choice, Suddenly I See.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I feel like Suddenly I See is like Connor said, like we used to listen to that song literally all the time. Like it's so early 2000s in the best way. I actually recently made an early 2000s playlist,
Mm.
and that was that was like what jogged my memory to like make this playlist. Like I was like, "Oh my God, I need more songs like this." I was like, "I
Yeah.
need that vibe."
Mhm.
So, yeah,
Yeah, I'm pretty
really
sure that
really
was
great.
definitely on a CD I burned on one of the Connor's music mix discs. This
Oh, for
song was
sure.
definitely
It was on my
with a whole
MP3
bunch of,
player.
yep, on the MP3 player. Just a whole bunch of songs from Scooby Doo and Shrek and this one,
Then
and
Suddenly I See.
Waiting on the World to Change by John Mayer was
Yep.
also on that list.
I literally have the same playlist as, and it's like our parents didn't even like listen to that. Like that's just like that was our music in
Yes,
early
that was what we
2000s.
Blazing Your Old
discovered.
Trail.
Yeah, so funny.
We discovered it, the
Yeah.
Shrek soundtrack.
You discovered Counting Crows.
Smash Mouth.
Yeah. Oh my God. I feel like every kid in the early 2000s loved Smash Mouth.
Oh, they're
Oh
the
yeah.
best. Yeah.
Yes.
First CD I ever bought, Smash Mouth Astro Lounge, with
Love that.
allowance money.
I had a friend out in Wisconsin for work, I think like the year or two before COVID hit. And at the time, Smash Mouth was randomly out there playing some show or something. And he said he went, and it was like a really, really small crowd. So even though they've been really so famous, for their Shrek's contribution, but by the late
Mhm.
20 teens, they, obviously dropped off in
Yeah.
popularity, especially for live music. And just like hearing that was just give me such mixed feelings hearing about that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No,
But back in the
I
day,
feel for
though,
them. They were
they were
iconic.
it.
Rockin'.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's move into our favorite scene slash best scene. You can share both or one or the other, whatever you guys are thinking there. So, Connor, want to take it away?
Um, I know we just spoke about it 10 seconds ago, but the Vogue montage is probably the most iconic scene in this movie. I do want to shout out two other scenes that I don't know if necessarily they're my favorites, but they're two scenes that I liked. I really liked after Anne Hathaway's character gets chewed out over the blue sweater conversation. Um, there's a scene where she's back in the apartment wearing her hoodie, drinking wine, eating grilled cheese with Nate, and kind of talking shit about Miranda and the clackers, the sound that the stilettos make on the marble floor. And it felt like that was the real Andy for a little bit. Like that scene just always sticks with me because I feel like that's when we get to see who she really is just like with her guard down, post glow up, but before she's kind of lost her way. And we just get like her real self hanging out with her boyfriend, comfortable talking shit about work. That, and then I also really like, even though it's a little backhanded, I like her and Stanley Tucci celebrating his new job.
Mm-hmm.
Very human interaction between the two of them, and we get a couple of those throughout the movie, but just them being like genuinely happy for each other and being able to celebrate him and everything he had been through to get this opportunity, just for it to get ripped away like 3 minutes later in the movie by Miranda was especially cold. But that scene prior to the awful revelation that was taken away from him was I enjoyed seeing the two of them kind of interact that way.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love seeing Stanley Tucci happy. Like, I just want him to be happy all the time. I love him
Yeah,
so
Oh,
much.
good.
yeah. I'm glad you brought up that scene because they have a really good dynamic in this movie. I love
Mhm.
their scenes together. They work really well. I feel like with all the characters in this movie, but particularly them two, there's very much kind of like a subdued nature to their interactions. I feel like a lot of movies like this with these types of characters could get very loud and big personalities.
Mhm.
Everything's really subtle and kind of calculated, which is
Mhm.
probably lends to the industry that they're in and the overarching story and everything. But they were really great together. And I feel like Tucci's character is one of the few, maybe the only good character like at heart out of the people in the fashion world, because obviously the people in Andy's life you could say are decent people, but in regards to those that work at this company and everything, Tucci, you could tell he does care about Andy,
Yeah.
even though he's very tough on her. I think he does it as in like, I'm just trying to set you up for success and I need to show you and tell you need to toughen up if you're gonna cut it in this world. And also
Mhm.
this is bigger than you, this is about me and all of us and etc, because he goes into his dreams and stuff like that at one point as well. But I don't know, I really like Tucci's character and I like their dynamics a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then for me, I know the makeover scene was brought up, had that on my list. The other two were two that stuck out to me every time I watched this movie. One was when Miranda finally shows some humanity in her hotel room in Paris, and Andy
Hmm.
kind of walks in on her and she's crying, guards down, looks like no makeup or cried it off. I think she's kind of dressed down. And you learned about her impending divorce and everything. And, just Andy showing concern for her and how and all that kind of stuff. You get a real human moment, and with not only with Miranda's emotion, but what she says about just being worried about like her daughters and how the fallout from the divorce and what might be written about them in the tabloids and the papers will affect them. Where she's like, I don't even care about me; I can handle it. I care about them. So I feel like it's the only human moment you get from Miranda.
Mhm.
And then what might honestly be my favorite scene, which might be unsurprising, but it's not for the reasons you would think it is when Andy gets the unpublished Harry Potter manuscript for Miranda's daughters. And it's not because it's Potter centered, but more so I just love that like Miranda clearly is pissed off at her, gives her this impossible task, wants her to fail, wants to have a reason to fire her. And Andy just pulls it together. Well, first of all, gets the steak in 15 minutes somehow. That steak looks
Yeah.
phenomenal, and I'm always
I
pissed
know.
that she chucks it in the sink. I'd be eating that so quick. That
Yeah.
Yeah.
looks so good.
Throw it in a doggy bag and you have that for lunch later.
Literally,
Exactly.
give one
Exactly.
cubic centimeter to Emily because she could use the food right now.
She could use a little
Yes.
protein.
Literally,
1 cubic centimeter. I'm
that's all,
crying.
well, she specifies the cube of cheese earlier, so I'm sure that's all you'll get out
Yeah,
of her.
no, actually, it always that actually just sorry to cut you off, but that actually just reminds me. Like, I know that I am so food centered because, like, in movies, when people do throw food or waste food, I'm always like, wait. I'm like,
No, I'll
don't
take
do
it.
that.
Just
I'm like,
paying
that's how
for
I
it.
know that I do not stop
It was
thinking and talking about food.
$120 steak.
Yeah. No, I'm
Literally.
always like, wait, don't do that. I just watched a movie last night when they a guy threw food overboard on a boat and I was just like, wait, that looks really good. I'm like, don't do
No.
that. No.
But yeah, I love that scene just because she gets so much done. Like the odds are against her and she accomplishes it and like
Mhm.
kind of rubs it in Miranda's face. Like she
Hmm.
kind of slams down the third copy of the manuscript on her desk. And I love Miranda's reaction too. She turns and she gives this like reaction of like disbelief, um, very impressed, but also kind
Yeah.
of angry about it at the
And
same
then
time.
immediate snark.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I
She
One
think
does a
that
double
copy.
take.
yeah, that lends to Meryl Streep's just ability to pull off that mix of emotions and reaction. But everything about that scene I've always really enjoyed.
Yeah, no, those are all really really great scenes. I actually think that my favorite scene might be the intro montage. With Suddenly I See. I
Mm.
really like that scene. I like the way that it's
Mhm.
filmed, like of everyone getting ready and just showing like the difference, that contrast between Andy's getting ready versus like all of these women who work as either models or just work in the fashion industry. It's just like showing the difference. I like the way that it's shot. I feel like it's a really effective way to set up the movie and like tell you
Mhm.
kind of a lot in just like a quick montage scene. And yeah, it tells you a lot about Andy without actually telling you anything about Andy. It's just like her getting her chapstick and just brushing her teeth, like that's her morning routine versus like all of these elaborate outfits and makeup
Mhm.
and hair and everything that everyone else is doing. So I really like the intro scene. It's also, again, like we said, that song is so freaking catchy and I just really like it. It's a really like fun opening scene. Another scene that I like, I don't know if I would say it's like the best scene, but like Connor, you mentioned like the whole like cerulean sweater
Mhm.
monologue that Meryl Streep's character, Miranda, kind of goes through. I really like that scene because I feel like it shows a lot of things about Miranda. It not only like reinforces like how cold she is and how willing she is to like embarrass somebody, but it also shows like the actual knowledge that she has for the industry. But I also, as I was watching this, and I'm not sure if this is like a misread on her character, but I also feel like it shows that she actually does care what people think, like more than like you think someone like her would. Just because like for her to like take the time to even embarrass her or educate her or whatever she thought she was doing, maybe a bit of both. I feel like it actually does show that like she does kind of care what Andy thinks and she does want to change Andy's mind a little bit. I don't know if that was just purely her being cold and wanting to embarrass her, but like I feel like why would a high powered woman like her even waste the time to do that then? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I never thought about that until my most recent rewatch for this episode, but I do feel like she kind of does care like and you can kind of see it throughout. Like she does kind of care a little bit, I feel like, what people think about her, for someone who is so like high powered and successful.
I think she really understands the weight and gravity of her role and like the influence she has on the fashion world around her.
Of course.
So not only like I think through showing the importance of her role at that company and in the fashion world, she was showing Andy like no, like I care and this is important and I'm gonna
Yeah.
put you down to show you to make
Yeah.
this point right now.
Yeah, definitely. No, I completely agree. Like she's very knowledgeable, but like she's also gonna like, yeah, like you said, put her down at the same time. So
Mhm.
yeah, I like that scene. I feel like that's a good opportunity that Meryl Streep was able to like really show off her acting. And it was just, yeah, it was a good scene. And I also think like I don't know if it might even be talking to like the audience too, or, like of people who maybe don't really care about fashion, just kind of showing that like this is a big, very powerful industry and like you can't escape it no matter what. Like, and I think it was just kind of like talking to everybody who maybe says that they don't care about fashion and anybody who sees themselves in Andy, just kind of being like, you think that you're not making a decision, but we're making the decision for you. So
Mhm.
yeah, I really like that scene. I think it was a good way for them to kind of explore the fashion industry without like, I don't know. It was just like a creative, good way to do
Yeah,
it.
it was a
Basically, is what I'm trying to
good
say.
monologue. It was good for the actress to be able to kind of flex on that one. I agree with
Yeah,
everything you said, except for the caring about Anne Hathaway portion.
Yeah,
I
I don't think she cares about Anne Hathaway. I think she cares
she cares
about
deeply about fashion
in about
and
what, and I think she
wants
does
that
care
image.
about what people think, was what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Not Anne Hathaway, not Andy
True.
particularly, but I think she cares more about what people think about her and about what people think about fashion, because she's trying to change her mind right there and educate her. I was
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
thinking, like, she tries to be like so cold, but it's like, I feel like if she really didn't care, she'd be like, get out, you're
Yeah.
fired. Like, you know what
She
I
never would
mean?
have wasted her breath.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think
Like
she
when
cares
she
slightly
asks
more.
for, I want the 15 scarves or something, she
Yeah,
won't follow up with any more info. She took the time there, but she
exactly.
took the time to embarrass her
Fair.
also.
Yeah, fair. I think it's twofold. I think it's two. I don't think she cares
Yeah.
about Andy. I'm just think that she cares. Yeah, I think she just wants to like convince everyone that like she is the best and like
Mhm.
she does know what she's talking about and yeah, embarrassing Andy was just a piece of that. Alrighty, let's move into Aged Like Milk, which is our rewatchable shout out. Just kind of like for their Age the Worst, Age the Best categories, we have Aged Like Milk and Aged Like Wine. So we'll start with Aged Like Milk for what aged the worst. And Matthew, do you want to start us off here?
Yeah, so I had a handful of things. On the top of the list, print journalism aged terribly. I feel like it keeps coming with every like mid 2000s movie that's anything to do with some early 20s fresh out of college person trying to make it in New York City or Boston or something, and they're like in this type of field. Um,
Yeah.
in the beginning, Andy has printed out clips of written pieces, and I thought that was really funny because that's people, journalists, people in this kind of sphere, writers, they have clips all the time now, but they're all on their own websites. They're on their
Yep.
LinkedIn. They're not ever printed out anywhere.
Yeah.
Besides that, I had calling all the time instead of texting. Miranda and Emily call Andy constantly, and they now anyone would just text. Also, be so much more easy and efficient. Then they have a list, and they're not just guessing and trying to remember
Yeah.
everything. They
Yeah.
would just text instead of call. And then my big two, which I'm sure you guys might have, and maybe it might be brought up later as well, but diet culture slash body shaming that is aged so bad, understandably and understandably and rightly so. In the beginning, Anne Hathaway calls herself not skinny, and people make references to her being fat or not skinny. And I'm like, this lady is a twig in this movie. Body standards, thankfully, have changed so much. Every time I watch it, it just blows my mind. And I make a comment to Alyssa. I'm like, I can't believe this is
Yeah.
a real thing. So 2000s weight standards are absolutely insane, and I'm glad there's been some there's been improvement. I'm sure there'll be more, but we got plus size clothes and models. Overall, more inclusivity nowadays, which is definitely improved in that regard. And the last thing I want to mention too that hasn't aged well for me is just the fashion style in this movie in general. I know it was very in at the time, and like Val
Mhm.
said, the costume designer spent $1 million on everything. It was very accurate. It was very in then. But man, like I just feel like what they considered acceptable versus unacceptable fashion has aged really poorly. They're like a lot of late 90s, early 2000s fashion's coming back now. You got certain types of jeans, the low rise jeans, the baggy pants, all that kind of stuff. Certain things are coming back. But there's also a lot of things in this movie that aren't coming back, like the certain colors, certain types of like kind of dress shirts they're wearing untucked and boxy ties,
Mhm.
things like that. And they give
Give it another couple years, that'll be back too.
no, literally, like, God, I hope not. Like Miranda's clothes too are very funny to me because especially in the beginning, she had some very kind of bright gold type of shiny shirt on, and it was very gaudy, very mid 2000s, looked terrible. The use of heavy eyeliner in this movie too, like Emily
Yeah.
Blunt's character, so much eyeliner. You only see
Yeah.
that nowadays as someone is purposely being like emo, but like that is so out of style. It makes me
Mhm.
laugh watching it. My final point, I'm going on a rant about what H. Poorly in this movie, but Andy's early wardrobe before a makeover would actually be in right now. I think like she had sweaters, loose and tight, that I feel like I see people wearing all the time. And I also made a
Mhm.
note that when she enters the Miranda's office, and it's right after Stanley too, she plops a pair of stilettos on her desk, like telling her you got to change your shoes. She walks in wearing chunky shoes, which are very in right now. In the last year or two, I feel like I see tons, like it's very in style. So a lot of aged like milk kind of things and gripes for me,
Yeah.
but I'm very like on my high horse about the fashion in this movie.
Mhm. I know it was ahead of its time then, but again, this movie's 20 years old, So
Yeah.
some of that is gonna definitely be aged out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said, except I actually feel like the one thing when I first started thinking about this category, I immediately thought like, yes, the body shaming and everything. But I actually
Mm-hmm.
feel like the movie goes out of its way to show that it is absurd and unattainable and bad. So
Mm-hmm.
like I almost think that it's like the commentary on that aged well. Like, yes, obviously the diet culture aged poorly. But I do think that the movie is making a statement about like almost like making it so absurd. It's like you
Mm-hmm.
had one cube of
True.
cheese when you're about to pass out. Like that's insane. Like they're like mocking the fact that like Emily's trying to look good by doing that, and it's like it's not
Extremism.
supposed to look good. Like it's supposed to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
In that
So like
regard, yes,
yeah.
they
So
like
I think
her, but there's also lots of jokes at Andy's expense, calling her fat
of
Well,
and
you're a
course,
and that
yeah.
size
kind of stuff.
6.
So I think
But I
it's
think,
yeah,
but I almost
the
think
size
that's,
does
but I
it.
almost think that that is what's supposed to be absurd. It's like
Right.
like they're making a joke. This woman is a size 6. That is a size 6 is considered a small in modern day sizing. So it's like for them to be saying that this woman, Anne Hathaway, like as the actress is fat. It's like, it's almost funny because it's like, she's so not fat. And I think that that's, to me, that's what I got out of it at least is like, they're commenting on like how absurd this culture is and like they were never
Mm-hmm.
meaning to be like this is actually funny, she's so fat. Like in other movies that we see, it's like in different comedies and stuff, like they'll say like, oh, like you're so gay, like as that's the joke, like that's the punchline,
Yeah.
like that
Mhm.
aged poorly. But it's like if they're saying like that's so gay but that person is supposed to be a bad person, like I think it aged well to think that that is bad, you know what I mean? Like
I do.
I'm not
I
trying to
do.
like
I know what you mean.
mansplain. I'm literally mansplaining the
How dare
category.
you
The
mansplain
three
to
of us,
me? Oh man.
the three of us who created this category, I'm like explaining it to you guys right now. I know you understand the category, but I'm just trying to explain like why I actually think that that's something that did age well. Is
I see your
like
point.
is society
Yeah.
still scrutinizes women's body
Oh,
sizes and
for
it's
sure.
still bad.
Yeah.
So I think that almost like the commentary on it is what
Mm-hmm.
aged well. What I don't
Yeah.
think aged well is the fact that Anne Hathaway's character gave into it and she did change the way that she looked and the way that she acted. And she actually did, Anne Hathaway literally did go from a size 6 to a size 4 during filming. So it's like, to me, that's what aged bad is the fact that she
Yeah.
actually did it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, she was confident and comfortable beforehand, but then she gave into the pressures of society. Like that to me is sends a bad message that our protagonist did that. So,
And it's funny you mentioned her dropping down sizes because I did read that her and Emily Blunt purposely like dieted or like they lost weight in the lead up to the movie, and then maybe it was during filming. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, which like I know that's a normal part of being an
right.
actor or an actress. Like I totally understand, but it's like normally it's for different reasons, obviously, like to
Mm-hmm.
show that like
Mhm.
somebody was literally starving like on an island or whatever, like different reasons like that. Whereas like this is literally like goes hand in hand with that diet culture directly. Like they were doing that in their real life too to prepare for this movie. So I think to me that's what that aged like pretty badly.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just the whole idea that you have to like lose weight, dress well, have expensive style, and have a full blown physical makeover in order to like be a person is just like insane. Like that
To
age
be
so poorly.
respected
Yeah,
and
like that age bad. So, but what about you, Connor? Do you have any other age like milk?
I just put the fat shaming. I get what you're saying, and I do think to a degree it is done to call it out, but that the cube of cheese joke is played as a joke, and I mean it's kind of just dancing around the fact that like she has an eating disorder,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
she's not
Yeah.
eating at all, and the joke is that she's only eating a cube of cheese and that it's ridiculous, but I think they kind of dance around it a little more in 2006 than they would handle
Yeah.
things like eating disorders
Mm-hmm.
and fat shaming now, but
No, that makes
definitely
sense.
with a tinge of mockery of it. And that kind of plays into other conversations we've had about other movies where maybe that part isn't hitting with everybody who's watching it.
Yeah.
At least back then, now we have a slightly different lens, but, maybe that wasn't viewed the exact same way that we're viewing it now 20 years ago. And,
Yeah.
I don't know how much this movie may have contributed to those types of negative outlooks around food versus maybe this movie helped put us on a path to address it a little more sensitively over the next 20 years. I'm not really sure exactly, but that was the one thing that really stood out to me. Specifically, and I love Stanley Tucci in this movie. I think he's so funny, but he does have a lot of
Wow.
a lot of weight jokes
Mhm.
and
Seriously.
comments and digs to other people, even up
Yeah.
till the end when Andy is giving her clothes to Emily. Is she even like, well, I'll have to have them taken in. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be drowning in them. Like,
It's
even
insane.
when they're doing something nice for one another,
Yeah.
there's still weight digs
Yep.
towards each
Yeah.
other. And
I like that Anne Hathaway's character, or Andy. I like that Andy, like, she never seems to be bothered by these comments though, because
Mhm.
like, she's kind of like, she rolls her eyes and she's like, she recognizes that these people are crazy. But it's like, I do think even when she's like lost herself the most throughout the movie, still feel like she's not bothered by, like comments like that. And I like do
Mhm.
kind of like appreciate that, like about showing that, like, it's like, yes, that's obviously super inappropriate to be saying things like that, but it's like, you don't have to let it, like, absolutely define what you think about yourself. And I
Yeah.
think she does a good job of that, or like the role.
Yeah, that
I
didn't
like,
become a big element of her
yeah, it
character.
wasn't like I mean, other than the fact that she actually did drop
She
sizes, I
did drop a
guess.
size.
So actually scratch what I said.
Yeah, maybe that was just off screen, but
Yeah. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things that maybe didn't age that well about this movie. But it's 2006 fashion culture, so that's
yeah.
what it was
Yeah.
like. All right. What do we think about aged like wine? We'll kick it back over to you, Connor, for if you have anything for what aged the best.
I just put Tucci. I just love seeing him in a movie.
Me too.
I know he was a
Tooch.
little typecasted after this role, but he's been able to break out of that
Mhm.
and has had some really interesting roles over the past 20 years. I mean, we saw him completely transform himself for The Lovely Bones, for the Hunger Games movies,
Mhm.
and just a bunch of other iconic roles. I do enjoy watching him eat his way across Italy on his show.
Me too.
He's just a very funny guy. He's very likable, and he plays his part really well in this movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I also had Tucci, unsurprisingly. Also had Emily Blunt. She just
Yeah.
it was early in her career. I read she was only 23 when this came out, which I was
I know, isn't that
surprised
crazy?
because
Mhm.
like she doesn't look old nowadays at all, but it just she just seems older than 23. But yeah, so fresh in her career, only gone up from there. Done so many big roles, such a huge
Yeah.
star now. So that's
Oh,
aged
she's
really
an
well.
A-lister now.
Yep.
She's really exploded over the
Mhm.
past few years.
Definitely.
Anything else on you on this end?
Oh,
No.
All right. I had a couple things here. One of which is the commentary on like toxic workplace culture. Like in no way do they romanticize being working for Miranda or working at this company, in my opinion at least. Like it looks like hell. It looks horrible. They effectively show that. And then but also kind of like they also show like how desperate people are to like work in that, and like that is that commentary on like how that's it's like pathetic, and it's like sad that people like are so desperate to work in an environment that is so bad for you. That is very relevant today as well. People are still we still it's gotten a little bit better. I think the pendulum kind of swings a little bit on like how hard people are willing to work and give to their companies. I think it goes back and forth a lot of the time. But I do feel like in recent years, definitely since this movie, we've seen like an insane push towards like hustle culture, like get out there, like make your business, like grind culture. Like it's just like insane. And I think that like that has aged well in the sense that like people are still willing to like kill themselves over their jobs.
true.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just yeah, it's not healthy. And I also think that the whole idea though that Andy kind of shows through her character is that you have to like get out of this or it will change you. I think is also still relevant today. Like she was able to get out before it changed her too much, and she definitely like was able to like understand and like reflect upon like the past 7 or 8 months that she was at her job and see kind of how like it did change her and the mistakes that she made. But it's like imagine people who are in that world for like whatever 15, 20 years.
Decades,
It's like
yeah.
that's just who you are now. It's like you've changed. So
Hmm.
I do feel like that is very much
She had
relevant.
this job for 7 months and changed a
Yeah.
lot about
I
herself.
know. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, it's just, it really is like, I think the ultimate message that like you can and should walk away from a prestigious career if it's not working for you is just, it's a
Mhm.
powerful lesson. And like, you absolutely should get out of toxic workplace culture. And yeah, I feel like this movie does a great job at making that type of world look horrible. It just looks so scary. Like to have a boss coming in and just start rattling off like all these items that you have to take care of, and you can't even write things down, and you also have to be skinny and dress good, and it's just like
Mhm.
it just looks terrible. So I feel
And it
like
wasn't
in
even just work related stuff. She was building science dioramas for the
yeah,
daughters.
exactly.
It
Just
got
like doing
taken
things
to
out of your job
unhealthy
responsibilities. Yeah.
extremes.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And then I had one other thing as well, and that was just overall Meryl Streep's iconic performance. I feel like aged so well. Like I see this, it's so highly like memed on social media. It's
Mhm.
referenced everywhere. Everybody knows this performance, whether you've seen the movie or not. Like I feel like everybody knows
Yeah.
her as Miranda Priestley. And I think it just aged really well. Like I watch a lot of like film and TV analysis videos on YouTube like all the time, and this is constantly referred to,
Mhm.
and it's always brought up. So I do feel like this performance aged really well, and I'm very excited to see how her performance is in the second one. So we
Yeah.
shall see.
How they handle the death of print media
I
and
know.
the
Yep.
Yeah.
changing landscapes of all this. I'm interested to see how they're going to handle a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. And
I'm pretty
cancel
sure that's
culture.
yeah. I'm pretty sure it's
Yeah.
part of the premise.
Hmm.
Oh,
Oh,
it is. Okay, I was
yeah.
gonna say I didn't even
I
see
read
the
the
premise
premise
just
a little
yet.
while ago, and I'm pretty sure that's what it was about, like the changing tides, and I think Anne Hathaway has to help Meryl Streep maybe adjust or something
Mm,
like that. Emily Blunt, her character is like, I think really high up in the fashion world now too. So not to spoil
Hmm.
anything, that's really all I know about it.
no,
But
that sounds like that's a good premise though. I mean,
mhm,
it makes sense. That's the direction it should go, you know?
mhm.
Devil Wears Prada 2. Even more girl bosses.
So many girl bosses. All right. Let's move into our chicken tendies award.
I'm gonna run a train on these chicken fingers.
Any bit or trope that is always great, just like chicken tenders. Kick it over to you, Connor.
I've got like the glow ups kind of makeovers. Those are fun. We've already spent a lot of time talking about those. So moving right into my second point, I'm a big fan of a figuring things out montage, which I feel like the Vogue scene did a good job of conveying that she's kind of in her rhythm now. She's getting better at her job. And just in the sense of the story, she hasn't fully lost herself yet at that point. But just kind of like finally getting into the rhythm. I think that scene comes right on the heels of Stanley Tucci telling her, like, you can quit, you can leave if you hate this, or give it your all and try to be good at it. And it's just that montage of her just getting a little better, and
Mm-hmm.
immersing herself into it, however toxic and detrimental to her character that may be, we can discuss later. But I just am a big fan of that being done in
Mhm.
movies. Just you know, getting immersed, learning, getting better. And, we sped through some time with that montage.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Matthew?
I have a couple. I really love photo shoot montage scenes, especially when they're set in New York City, and especially when they're in Central Park. And a movie that immediately came to mind while watching that scene where Nigel and Andy are in Central Park for their photo shoot was a photo shoot scene in 13 Going on 30. I'm a big
Mm.
13 Going on 30 fan, and I believe definitely New York City, and I believe it was in I thought it was in Central Park for one of theirs, but there's a kind of a montage where in the middle of the movie, Jenna, or Jennifer Garner's character, has like found her spark and is like loving and embracing her job and kind of implementing her own changes into the magazine, and things are kind of starting to work out for her and move in a positive direction. Um, that I think that's kind of what the whole scene is like, and I feel like there's similarities between that scene and the photo montage scene in this one, where both kind of indicate some important change in a positive fashion for the characters. Like Connor was talking about, kind of things are starting to fit together and work out type of scene. I feel like that's what the photo shoot montage did in this movie. And that's kind of what it did in 13 going on 30. So I really love that trope. It always seems to be effective for me. Besides that, I also had mean slash authoritative slash all powerful bosses. It's just a really good trope. In dramas, it's a really good trope where we played differently in comedies as well. There's kind of two sides of the coin there. What also came to mind while I was kind of typing that up was Sandra Bullock's character in The Proposal. Same type of
Mm,
intro, which is also kind of my subcategory for this trope is, by extension, scenes where this all-powerful, tyrannical, scary boss is arriving to work and everyone's scrambling around. It's always effective and enjoyable. And it's always people just like quickly cleaning up, tidying, like eating something, putting on makeup, clearing their desks, putting things on the boss's desk like food or coffee. I really enjoy that trope. And then just besides that, I just had Anne Hathaway in dramedy comedy or drama comedy roles like this. Princess Diaries, Bride Wars, The Intern. I feel like she crushes in these roles, and I love when she does this kind of stuff.
mhm.
Yeah, those are all great, and I totally agree. I had a couple other random ones. I have like the whole like movies about girl boss era or like just workaholism in general. It's like they're so toxic, but like I love to watch them on screen. Like they're so entertaining. I feel like they're just they're great every time. Another one kind of along the lines of what you were saying, Matt, like the evil boss trope. I feel like it's entertaining and also like so many people, especially in America, like resonate with this trope.
Mhm.
Not me, of course. Shout out Laura. I couldn't be further from the truth. But yeah, no, I love an evil boss trope. I feel like people love to hate on their bosses, and it's just like it's entertaining on screen.
Mm.
Um, and then I also have just like the overall like exposing or making a commentary on what is supposed to be like a glamorous industry. We see this through so many movies and shows, whether it's commentary on like Wall Street or finance, fashion, Hollywood, pro sports. Like there's a lot of different times that we see it's like it
Mhm.
looks like such a glamorous, like amazing industry to be in, and then it's like you find out that there's not so glamorous realities behind and people working within them are not treated well, and it's just really a damaging world to be in. So I do feel like those are always good, entertaining, but also like there's a moral like message to those types of movies.
Mhm.
So I like that as well. Let's move into our Augie Farks Award. So what do you have, Matthew, for best great funny character name from this movie?
Yeah, so on my short list, I have Miranda Priestley. Great name for a fashion industry person, head of a company. Andy Sach. I feel like it's a memorable name. Andy's a really good, likable main character name, at least in my opinion. And then two other ones I just threw on the list were Clacker and Clacker at Elevator. I think Clacker at Elevator is the funniest, and I didn't know what that. I pieced together what that meant, but you put it in perspective when you mentioned Clackers earlier in the pod. But I feel like Miranda Priestley probably has to be the best fitting character name. I feel it's just a really good head of a fashion group type of character name.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Connor?
I just had one, and we've talked about her already. It is Jacqueline Follet, Follett,
Nice French
the
name.
young rival to Miranda in the fashion world. And we mentioned played by Stephanie Sozak. Yeah, that's the only very like French fashiony name that stood out to me in this one.
I like it. I have just Miranda Priestley. I feel like this is such a, like you said, Matthew, it's a very like bold, grand name. And it also has like actual meaning to it. I did a little bit, or I came across this one and when I was like taking a look at everything for this movie, and the name Miranda means to be admired.
Mm.
And Priestley kind of like evokes the like authority, like judgment, like literally like priest like being in
True.
her name, which is also kind of
Mhm.
funny because there's a juxtaposition between priest in her last name versus her literally being the symbol of the devil.
Yeah.
So her
Be
name is,
admired and godly.
yes, exactly.
And everyone's
So
like,
yeah.
you have to sell your soul to work for her.
Right. Yeah, so I like her name. I think it's like the most well thought out like name, obviously, like for her character, and it has like actual meaning to it, and it also just sounds cool for like a fashion mogul. So yeah, I gotta go Miranda Priestley for the Augie Farks Award. Okay, next up we have our Paul Rudd category. So how would you fit Paul Rudd into this movie, Connor?
I was thinking about subbing out Doug for Paul Rudd.
I like
Andy's
it.
friend, the one who's very into fashion, the one who's really tapped into the world. That would just be a great young Paul Rudd getting really enthusiastic about fashion for the 3 scenes in the movie. Teasing Anne Hathaway's character and just kind of being a little background character. But I'd always enjoy a little Paul Rudd inserted into the movie.
I thought something similar. That was like going to be on my short list. But I honestly had a really hard time trying to find a way to insert him into this. But I think I want to go with replacing. I can't remember the character, but he is the one fashion designer that's starting up like his new thing that was going to partner with Nigel Stanley Tucci's character. Maybe replacing that actor Daniel Sunjata with Paul Rudd. And I feel like he could play it straight, he could play it normal, kind of whatever, or he could find his way to kind of inject a little bit of more humor into that role. I feel like, I
Yeah.
don't know, I feel like I could see him kind of doing some fun stuff with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it. I can see it. I kind of like the way I'm putting him in this movie is like kind of like rewriting like some of the movie a little bit. I'm finding a way to get him in here. So I'm imagining, just hear me out. Hear me out. I'm imagining like a third assistant aside from Andy and Emily. So, but he is an assistant that is hired like after Andy starts doing well. And like he doesn't do much. He literally gets like he gets coffee and does like other unimportant tasks, and he's kind of like a comedic role, but I think also it would like symbolize that like one, Andy's moving up, and then also I'm imagining like Miranda doesn't even like recognize him as a person, like she literally pretends he isn't there, and like all he does is like,
Incompetent oaf.
yes, yeah, so like he's literally just there, but I feel like it would be good to like almost have someone like below Andy. I
Mhm.
mean, I know at one point like Emily's kind of like the second assistant, like they kind of like switch roles at one point, but I feel like it would be fun to just have like a little Paul Rudd, like more comedic relief, and
Yeah.
and just have him just be like whatever, like you like a dork, just
Mhm.
like moving around the office and only really being there to deliver coffee and do other unimportant tasks.
Once you said him in that role as the third assistant, all I imagine him doing is being like a gopher and just literally running around, like, getting coffee, delivering it, like him running around the office. I see him like
Yes.
falling, doing some physical humor, and like
Exactly.
Miranda just like chucking coffee cups at him when he gets things wrong. And then like, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Miranda, and he like runs back out of the room.
Miranda still
Exactly.
calls him Emily.
Maybe it's even like a family member of Miranda, or so it's like that's how he got the job.
Yeah.
But it's like we're only, yeah, literally like a nepo baby type of situation, but it's like she can't like not have him work there
Mailroom.
because it's like family. But yeah, I feel like it could be, but that like I said, that's like kind of like rewriting the movie in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Or
I didn't know.
we replace Meryl Streep with Paul Rudd.
Yes, love. That's
Right
in
there
scene
with
studio
the
notes.
Corellian Blue monologue.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad if I got to at least see that. I'm not saying it should definitely happen, but I wouldn't be mad. Okay, let's move into our drive-in double feature. So, Matthew, what movie would you pair this movie with at a drive-in, and why?
So I have two I'd like to throw out there. The first would be 13 Going on 30, which I know I've mentioned already. I feel like these movies remind me of each other a little bit. They kind of exist in similar worlds, with similar vibes in certain regards. It's more of a romantic comedy, obviously, with Jennifer Gardner and Mark Ruffalo's characters. But both take place in the fashion world. They're both, I believe, only 3 years apart in release. So in those early to mid 2000s, main leads are kind of have similar roles or kind of trying to get in the same industry, that kind of thing. So I feel like similar enough, but maybe gives you a little bit more of that romantic spin to it. Still comedy and drama. And then also the second one would be The Intern. So another Anne Hathaway starring movie, another drama comedy. I feel like this one, even though The Devil Wears Prada ends on a positive note, things kind of work out in its own unique way. I feel like The Intern has a little bit more lightheartedness to it throughout the film. Like I said, once again, another Anne Hathaway led movie. I feel like just a good pairing with her kind of stuff. I'm tempted to go maybe 13 going on 30, just to kind of give you similar but a different taste and more like some more of that rom-com vibe to it.
Okay. I like the 13 going on 30. Keep us in early 2000s New York for a little bit. I had two as well. I had Whiplash, where Devil Wears Prada is kind of like girl boss Whiplash. You get the very unhealthy dynamic from a boss or leader, very toxic relationship between someone who's just trying to make it and their superior. I also threw in the Princess Diaries or, all the comparisons we've touched on, the Anne Hathaway glow up movies, early 2000s, just kind of keeping it in that kind of sandbox.
I like it. You definitely threw me off there when you said Whiplash. That's not what I was expecting you to say.
Your abusive superiors, huh? Jeez.
Yeah, get it all out in one evening.
All really good choices, though. I also had 13 going on 30. I feel like the classic, like, early 2000s, like, fashion magazine. Like, it's, perfect. I feel like it goes so well. And then also I had How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days for that exact same reason. She works at a magazine, and I feel like, and I know we keep referring to The Devil Wears Prada as like a rom-com, even though it's literally not. It just feels like it is. But similar vibes, like, you know what I mean, the rom-com vibe. So I feel like those would be two good movies for that. But yeah, I'm definitely going with 13 going on 30. I feel like it's the best match for this movie in terms of the vibe and the time frame of when they came out. So
none of us picked the Entourage movie.
The Entourage, I love Entourage, but that movie was trash.
That stinks.
All right, what would you guys use as your popcorn bucket sold at the theater for this movie? Matthew, take it away.
Yeah, another difficult popcorn bucket. I feel like nothing really stood out to me right away. Three ideas I was kind of spitballing were maybe just a big stiletto heel. Fashion industry.
I like that.
Nigel plops the pair of stilettos, or high heels at least, on Anne Hathaway's desk early on. I also had maybe the blue purse that Andy gives her friend. Thing used in the movie, purse, fashion, kind of that vibe. It's already a container of some sort. Maybe you do a fun handle on it too. And then the last one was more of a plain bucket with devil horn sticking off the rim of it. Maybe you do
I like that.
trident. And then if you really, what to put around the actual size of the bucket, could be like the New York City skyline, kind of plop little things on there. But those are kind of my ideas. I kind of want to go with the stiletto heel though, because I feel like that'd be different. And you just do an absurdly large stiletto heel and just eating popcorn out of it. I like the imagery of that.
I like it.
I also had a pair of shoes, pair of high heels. Nice. To eat out of. That was my runner-up. The one I'm gonna go with is that blue sweater, that cerulean blue sweater.
Oh yeah.
Eat out of the neck hole of that.
I like that. I was like, well, what better than a Prada bag to be the bucket? But then again, the movie theater can't use the Prada logo. And I was talking to Connor about this earlier. The bucket would be $3,000.
Prada brand.
So like that, yeah. So like we don't really do designer popcorn buckets. But then after I said that, I was like, oh, like I think it should be like an actual like bag. I guess Connor informed me just before we started recording that the second Devil Wears Prada is already doing a bag for their popcorn bucket.
Selling a red purse. A red handbag is the popcorn bucket with little spots you can put your candy on the sides too.
I love that. I kind of want one.
Yeah. Gotta get one.
That sounds so good. Yeah, I need one. But yeah, I feel like I really do like your like devil horns bucket, Matthew. And I almost feel like, again, we're running into like the whole like can't use a Prada logo, but I feel like if it was like a Prada like
Make it look
lined
like it.
like pop like whatever, just like Prada, like almost like leather with like the
Yeah.
logo and then the devil horns, it's like literally the Devil Wears Prada like in a
I like
popcorn
that.
bucket. So I feel like that would be kind of cool, but really good ideas, you guys. Okay. So let's move into kind of our open discussion that kind of wraps up our traditional categories that we usually do. So, really, anything that you guys want to talk about, additional notes, hot takes, additional categories. I know, Connor, you mentioned, I think you, before we go into our discussion, did you have another category that you wanted to
I did have
talk about
a
really quick?
mystery box. I got a mystery
Okay.
box category for us. It is
Okay.
the French Onion Soup Award for best use of food in this movie. Why French onion soup? Because Val loves French onion soup.
Loves it.
It's an inside joke.
Um,
That's all there is
and
to it, though.
sticking with the soup theme too, I went with that corn chowder that we mentioned before, where the number one ingredient was cellulite. And I also specifically wanted to bring this up because we haven't talked about that scene in when she gets the soup and the roll and she's eating it, making a joke about how she eats carbs and no one else eats carbs there. Tucci and everyone else in line in that scene, go back and watch, they all have the exact same box salad on their lunch trays. And
Amazing.
she's the only one who has the soup and a roll. And there's like 7 other people in line, and they all have the same salad on their trays.
That's so funny. Why are they still serving the soup and the bread then? If no one at the entire office is eating it,
I was wondering the
That's a
same
very good
thing.
point.
maybe
Just for
people in
shame.
like yeah, to catch
Shame
someone
for
on their
being
first
there.
day.
I was also wondering, is that building all just their one like company? Are there other offices, groups in there? Because maybe there's people from
Yeah,
other offices
probably.
eating that. But then, like you
No,
said
that's a
in
good
line,
point.
well, you were saying in line though, Connor, everyone had the same box salad, and I didn't notice that, but I watched back on that scene, and it was Tucci and then several like tall, skinny women that clearly all worked at
Yeah.
this company. So I was like, maybe they are the only people that work and eat at this place.
They were the ones who had the salads also.
Yeah.
That's funny. Also runner up the onion bagel.
Did someone eat an
Chowing
onion
on that
bagel?
bagel.
Yeah. That was so funny. Okay, so I do have an open discussion question for you guys, and that is, was Nate the villain of this story? I think we're all kind of on the same page with this, but I would like to talk about it. So in recent years, I don't know when this originated, but at least in recent years, I have seen this as kind of like a common take on the internet, a common fan theory. I don't know if this has been around. Like I said, I don't know if this has been around since the movie first came out, but at least recently, people think that Nate is the true villain of this story. So people highlight that he is unsupportive, he whines about her demanding job, and that he doesn't support her career growth are things that everybody says. So I'd like to kind of discuss this and see, like, is there a villain of the story? Who do we think the villain is? And what do we think about Nate being the villain of this story? Matthew, I see you shaking your head.
I'm sorry, Connor. I got to take this first. I'm gonna
Do
jump
it.
in.
Do it.
First of all, hashtag justice for Nate. We're gonna put that on the record. I watched this movie years ago. Didn't really remember much about it, but just remembered, oh yeah, I think the boyfriend wasn't great. Like whatever. Watched this for the first time in years a couple years ago, and I was like, wait. I was like, the boyfriend didn't suck. Everyone talked about how this guy was terrible and unsupportive, all things he said. And then I rewatched it a few months ago, like I said, coincidentally, and I was like, this guy just gets the raw end of the deal in general, but also from fan reactions. He,
Yeah.
like, I want to say was kind of supportive. He wasn't unsupportive. He was like just confused, like, that's not really you. You don't like this industry. Why are you taking it? And he's kind of, she kind of pushes back and he's like, okay. He's like, yep, whatever. And he is supportive. And she misses his birthday party. She doesn't show up to all these things. And he constantly rolls with the punches and is like disappointed and conveys that. And then he's like, fine. And time again, he puts up with so much stuff and she's like not understanding of all this, whatever. And I don't know. I just think it's a bunch of bullshit that people are mad. He's not the villain. I mean, the villain could be kind of Miranda. It could be Andy herself, I feel like I got another take for the villain, but I'm losing it. But yeah, it's not Nate. I think Nate just gets the wrong end of the deal, and honestly, I'm really glad for both their sakes they don't get back together at the end of this. I think it was the right move.
Yeah.
It was a different storytelling kind of plot point. They mixed it up. And like, Andy needs to figure her shit out. Like, Nate can go be with someone that will show up to his fucking birthday party and not bail constantly. And I get it was part of her job, but like, I think he is more than understanding.
I completely agree. I think he like honestly, he really was like a very patient and understanding boyfriend, and like he maybe he made like a couple remarks here and there that were like a
Right.
little annoying. Like one thing that comes to mind, which is such a minor thing, but when they're like sitting around, he's like, "Oh, like how many bags do you need? You need one bag." And like he says stuff like that. That reminded me more of like a dad comment though.
Right.
Like it wasn't like mean or
Mhm.
insensitive. It was just like he makes like some dumb
Right.
remarks. Like you know what I mean? Like
An
he's a classic.
immature comment.
Yeah, exactly. He's
Not the
immature. And,
villain.
right. And to that point, I want to point out that Andy and Nate are both fresh out of college. Like they're both literally like 22 and like they're dating. And it's like I feel like Andy is allowed to change. She's allowed to go through a rough patch. She's allowed to do this. He's also allowed to not want to be with someone who completely changed and isn't who they were. And it's like it maybe it'd be a little bit different if they were older. Maybe it'd be a little bit different if they were married. But it's like they're dating. They're in their early 20s.
They're
it's
literal
like
kids.
it's okay to part ways when you're not. You want to change, you want to go down another path. Like, and I also think like a lot of the remarks people are like he wasn't supportive of her career, but it's like she didn't even want this job. She made fun of it the whole
They
time.
They were
And
aligned in mocking fashion in the beginning of the movie.
Right.
they mocked it together, and it's like if I were Nate, I'd be confused because I'd be like, you hate these people, like this is not you. Like I'm confused. Like I thought that you didn't want to be here either, and now all of a sudden like this is who you are. Like I'd be confused too. And also missing his birthday and not calling was crazy.
Yeah.
Like missing his birthday is one thing, not calling, crazy.
Yeah. I want to also put it out there for the record. I'm a girl's girl through and through. As a therapist, I love hearing when people leave toxic relationships, especially a lot of times you see the men end up being the problem in relationships and women leave a bad situation, and it's great. I'm not saying Andy's character was necessarily problematic. Like you said, Val, I think you touched on it perfectly, where they both were doing their own things. It's not a one versus the other. They both are coexisting at the same time. They're living their lives. Andy's going about her career, and we get that she's in a really tough situation and trying to kind of make it work at a really hard job to further her career when she wants to move on for the recommendation, all that kind of stuff. But also Nate is doing his thing, and just because he isn't totally in love with her career choice doesn't make him the villain. And I feel like people, it's either this or that, and it's really neither has to be the villain. And I think Nate especially is not a villain in this regard.
Yeah, I agree. He didn't, that's the thing too, is like, he didn't do anything that like impacted her decisions. Like people were like people went so, Connor, you were telling me earlier, like people went so far to be like Nate is like the reason why like things didn't work out for her. Like what, like people are just so crazy about it. And it's like, that's so not fair. Like he didn't do any, like she makes her own decisions. When you blame everyone else for everything, it like takes all of the, like agency away from Andy to make her own life decisions. And it's like she should be allowed to make mistakes and she should be allowed to try to figure herself out. Like I was just like, that's crazy to blame him for everything. He literally didn't do anything.
No, he didn't. If we're talking about the villain of this movie, it's clearly Miranda. I mean,
she's the devil.
Yeah, she is
the devil. She is evil in this movie. And in defense of Nate and the friends, which both of them get so much shit online.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the book is different. We're not talking about the book. We're talking about the movie that we all just watched. He didn't do anything wrong. I will acknowledge he was a little annoying and a little immature, but they were so aligned in the beginning of this movie.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like they ruined a good thing.
She turned down law school to pursue journalism and struggled to find a job. So she got into this path here as an assistant to this fashion mogul. This was not her passion. And I compared this in double feature to Whiplash. In Whiplash, he's devoted and obsessed with drumming. So he put himself in that toxic arena to become better at the thing he was most passionate about in the world. She was not passionate about fashion. until she started getting the gifts and slowly immersing herself into this world. But we looked it up. She was in this job for about 7 months. In that time, we got a scene with her father where she spent the entire time on the phone with Miranda, had to like leave dinner in the middle. They were supposed to go see a show. She's on the phone trying to scramble and get a flight through a hurricane for her, just completely dismissing her father, putting her job above her relationship with her family. Then we get the scene where she's giving gifts to her friends. They all were making a mockery of her job together, including Anne Hathaway in the beginning. And then we get that they're appreciative of the gifts. And then she's gets a phone call and they play a little bit of keep away with the phone. And she says something like, "You guys don't have to be assholes about it," and storms out. And it's like they were appreciative of the gifts. Then they were just kind of playfully teasing her and she went off on them. I don't get the hatred towards Nate and her friends in the slightest. And it almost makes me think it is a troll job just to ignite conversation, because it has to be rage bait. Because if anyone sat through the beginning to the end of that movie, where even in the end she realizes the flaws in her ways, she realizes how far gone she's gone, and she leaves the job and reconciles with Nate. And it's like, how can someone think he's the villain when the main character realized she was wrong
Right.
and went to apologize for how
I
she
think
was
people
acting?
don't watch, or if they do, they don't understand. Like we talked about this on another episode, that it's like, yeah, obviously media literacy is at an all-time low right now.
Yeah.
So I do feel like people are just genuinely looking for something to be mad about and always looking to just like blame someone in something, instead of just like actually looking at a movie and understanding that like things can just be like, it doesn't have, you don't have to be like it's right versus wrong, it's black and white. It's like, no, it's sometimes things just are like what they are, and like there's no real like argument there. I mean, as we're literally having an argument, but you get what I'm saying.
No, it's just a dumb point of view, in my
Yeah, I
opinion,
agree.
to,
I
to
think people do.
vilify.
I think people do feel that way, but only because maybe one person said it on the internet one time, and they were like, "Yeah, I want to be different, and I want to think that too." And then I just freaking blew up, and everyone was like, "You know what? He is the villain." It's like, oh my god!
Yeah.
Like if
I
you
don't
watch
blame
the
him. I
movie,
don't blame Andy. I
Right,
mean, they're,
right.
yeah,
like you
no,
said, they're 22 years old. They're fresh out
exactly.
of college, and they're trying to make it in New York City, doing what they got to do. She lost her way a little bit. She found it again. We'll see what the sequel says she's been up to for 20 years, but
Yeah. If someone
unfortunately,
is
he's not going to be in it.
I know, I know. If someone is the true villain, it's we can either call it Miranda, obviously, she's the symbolism of like the devil kind of like offering
Mhm.
you success if you abandon your morals, but also just the whole idea of like the hustle culture, the fashion industry,
The
the modeling
industry.
industry, like all of that, like the society, the societal pressures, like that's the villain. Like, you know what I mean? It's and Miranda's just like a physical manifestation of
Mhm.
that society. So I feel like that's the true evil here in this situation, not the 22-year-olds that are trying to figure out their lives.
I
Yeah.
see why your first two movie picks were American Psycho and The Devil Wears Prada, with these underlying themes that are here that you're pulling out these deeper messaging. Where obviously American
Yeah.
Psycho was much more on the nose intentionally, which this one we can take a little bit of a deeper analysis and pull these out. But I can see it made no sense to me why these were your two picks. Where if there was any correlation, I mean, obviously besides you being a big fan of them, but I'm seeing you really like seeing these themes in movies.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Misunderstood
love a
movie.
commentary on how wrong it is to to be in a hustle culture.
You love a good commentary, and you love making commentary on commentary.
So true. And I like making commentary on your commentary on my commentary. It never ends.
What are we doing? Inception now?
I'm confused. Where are we? Okay, so I feel like we've exhausted that discussion.
Yes.
But any other thoughts about this movie, hot takes, additional notes that you guys had that we didn't get to earlier, really anything that you guys had before we wrap up?
Yeah, I had a quick couple little things I wanted just to throw out there real quick. The first is I feel like this is a well written movie, good dialogue, no holes,
Mhm.
conflict. Is continuing, there's conflict there. There's a good conflict. They're continually
Mhm.
raising the stakes that work well. Um, I think this is all-time movie title. I know it came from the book, but The Devil Wears Prada is so interesting and on the nose and
Yeah.
works so well.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoyed how this movie was shot. A lot of mid-range shots. You're getting a lot of like head to kind of mid-torso, not super far, not super close unless it really called for it. And I realized I kind of personally like the style a little bit because I think it gives the feel of a lot of 2000s movies. And I feel like nowadays movies feel too much like I'm too aware that I'm watching a movie, that I'm watching people
Mm-hmm.
on a set or in a studio somewhere.
Like
Yeah.
These feel like I'm
overproduced.
actually watching a story and kind of dipping into this world for a little bit. So that mid-range shot kind of stood out to me, just the general feel of this movie. And I think the very last thing I wanted to mention was is Andy's now ex-boyfriend Nate. Is he a bad chef? And I say this because he does get a sous chef job at the end, so he's obviously good at what he does. But early on, he makes some of the most burnt grilled cheese I've ever seen. The thing, he bites into it and it's so crunchy and crispy, which, hey, maybe I love a good crunch, but it looks like just dark brown black. It looks so overdone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
That's
always
so
bugged
funny.
me.
He also
He's
had
like
a
actually
lot of
terrible.
free time on his hands for being a chef in New York or a cook in
Yeah,
New York at that point.
true.
They're out at the bar all the time, and it's like he'd be working 6-7 nights a week
Does he
and
not work
be gone
dinner
pretty
rush?
late. Yeah. Um,
Anything else?
this has been an awful lot of Nate talk. I just want to shout out my boy Vinny Chase here from Entourage. This movie came out right as season 3 had started airing. We were 3 episodes into season 3, which, if you're a fan of Entourage, that is a very hot stretch of the show. The season premiere of 3 is Aquamom, and then One Day in the Valley. Those are 2 of like the highest rated episodes of the show. And then this movie came out right after the 3rd episode of the 3rd season. So this was like Adrian Grenier's real hot streak. I feel like being in this movie, heavily featured as the boyfriend in this movie, and being the star of this show as it's really finding its stride on HBO. I know I shouted out the director of this movie earlier in his involvement with Band of Brothers. He did also, David Frankel directed the pilot of Entourage. So I imagine that is where he got to know Adrian Grenier and was able to pull him in for this movie. Was they worked together on the very first episode and then I believe the 7th episode of the first season.
I wish Adrian Grenier did more like throughout his career. Like I really feel like he's not like a spectacular actor, but like I feel like there are more places for people like him. Like just a chill
Absolutely.
dude who like like that role could fit or he could fit that role in more stuff, but he really didn't do much honestly over the past like
Yeah.
20 years.
I know we had Clickbait,
Yeah.
was the Netflix miniseries or limited series that came out
He was
within the
also
last
barely
10
in that though.
He was barely in it.
He
He
was
was
like
kind of a
kidnapped the whole
looming
time.
presence.
Spoilers. Just kidding. No.
But he made a lot of money doing Entourage, and he's
Yeah.
kind of enjoyed his semi-retirement. I believe he's living on a farm with his family and
I guess that's the way
living
to
his
do it.
best life, getting out of the movie and TV system. But I agree. I am a fan, and I would have liked to have seen a little more.
Yeah.
I did see, we're recording this in early April. I very briefly fell for a April Fool's post by the Entourage page that they were coming back for another season. It lasted about 2 seconds of excitement from me, and then I realized it is April Fool's Day, and this is just fake.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get more.
I know. On the note of Adrian Grenier and just like Nate and everything, literally like right before we started recording today, I saw that Starbucks put out like they put out like a recent ad, and you guys have to look it up after we're done, and it was basically like him like promoting a new drink, but also talking about how he wasn't included or asked to come back. And it was like funny, like, but it was like clearly like him being like, yeah, they didn't ask me to come back, like whatever. So definitely look that up after we're done recording, because I was like, wait, that's actually so funny. Like I feel like he was actually hurt that like he wasn't asked to come back for it. I mean, I don't know what
movie role was being a small part in this movie.
right. But yeah, I was like, oh my God, that ad was so funny. I'm like, I don't know how that happened. Starbucks and Adrian Grenier are talking about the new movie. So, but very
It
random.
could have been the head chef at a restaurant they go to. Come on.
I
At
kind of wish
least like a cameo.
they had plopped him in
Yeah.
the background, and you can only like half see him. His like head is like through like a kitchen window or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, just a very, very minor role.
Just in the weeds sweating in the background.
They're like, Andy, don't you know someone in Boston? No, no one.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Yeah,
That's so funny. All right. Anything else from you guys before we wrap up for the night?
that's it.
That's all.
All righty. Well, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Popcorn in the Face. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you're following us on Instagram at Popcorn in the Face Pod for episode updates, behind the scenes content, and all of our movie opinions. New episodes will be available on Wednesdays on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, so be sure to hit subscribe so you never miss one. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.